Now, I have talked about this before on other channels, and I recently watched Malankara Orthodox TV debate about Eastern and Western, or Eastern Orthodoxy and Oriental Orthodoxy reunification. Unfortunately, the gentleman's accent, the priest or bishop's accent was too thick. I couldn't understand, and also the audio was not very clear. It looked like there were many bishops or priests from either side, from the Eastern Orthodox as well as the Oriental Orthodox Confederation, right? I am against reunification. I am for reunification, and I think reunification already happened. Let me explain why this is and why I would warn those in the Oriental Orthodox Confederation, because it's not really as unified as the Eastern Orthodox Communion is. It's, as the Ethiopian and the Coptic and the non-Chalcedonian Syriac all have their, are far more different. Now, I say it already happened because of Ignatius Kawas and Ignatius IV of Antioch. May he rest in peace. Already had the signed agreement, and you had intermarriage between the Oriental Syriac Orthodox and the Syriac Antiochian Orthodox, many times incorrectly called Greek Orthodox or Syrian Greek Orthodox. But one from the Eastern Orthodox Communion and one from the Oriental Orthodox. There were intermarriage. They not only intermarriage that always happened, but once the couple was married in one church, they were accepted in the other. You didn't have to do double marriage. The baptisms were valid, and the Eucharist is valid. Now that is communion. That is being in communion. As Tertullian defines it, as the early church defined it. There needs no go further than that. And as soon as what get called the Antiochians, or the Antiochian Syriac Orthodox of the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the non-Chalcedonian Syriac Orthodox of the Oriental Communion, as soon as there is union between them, and there has been, the schism is ended. As for official things, there shouldn't be, because I fear for the Orientals that they will be influenced by certain things that have crept into the Eastern Orthodox churches, whether it was through modernism or Roman Catholicism or whatever, or they would adopt more of a Chrysostom liturgy, like the type we have, more uniformity. Whereas in each part of the Oriental Orthodox, whichever church there is, they preserve something that was remembered from apostolic times, just as the Eastern Orthodox Church does, just as the ancient Latin Rite in the West does, right? So we're already unified. We don't need we don't need to be homogenized. And I don't worry for the Eastern Orthodox Church, I worry for the Orientals, and I'm Eastern Orthodox. As for reunification with Rome, never, ever, 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 nor to the Anglicans, nor to the Lutherans. But I think we could, if we've already recognized that the baptism is valid, that the Eucharist is valid, and that once married in one church, that the couple is married, and especially that it happened in Damascus, which is the new Antioch, that's enough. We don't need to go back and start apologizing for each other's saints, or saying, well, no, this guy really wasn't a heretic, or this really was. And it clearly was, unlike the schism of 1054, it clearly was an issue where if there had been cell phones back then, there wouldn't have been a schism. Right? The Emperor Heraclius did his damnedest to try to restore things. And there were actual monophysites, not what gets described as myophysites, but actual straight up blending on one side. And then there were also the good, what are now, basically the same as the modern day Oriental Orthodox, that thought what they were hearing about Chalcedon was a backing of Nestorius, which Chalcedon condemned Nestorianism. So I wouldn't want to see any Eastern Orthodox convert to Oriental Orthodoxy, or any Oriental Orthodox convert to Eastern Orthodoxy. I myself now consider myself Syriac only because once Ignatius died, John shouldn't have stepped up. It should have just gone under Ignatius of Kawas. Unfortunately, there's no Syriac Orthodox church around here, so I go to OCA. And the OCA church that I go to, my priest that I confess to is Coptic Orthodox, but he's a priest in the OCA. Reunification already happened. Getting bishops involved and officials and bureaucratic stuff is where all the garbage comes in. We don't need that. We're already one people, one body of Christ. We don't need to confound and confuse things and do like what the church in Rome does, where, they gotten to the point where they have voodoo ceremonies in their weird little ecumenical things, and they accept Taoists and Buddhists and Shia Muslims and all this kind of stuff. I would say no to the Nestorians, to the Assyrian Church of the East, because they reject the Theotokos. And that is intolerable. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Like the Chalcedonian Council was, right? And was it really needed? It can be argued. But I think you could see from Heraclius' actions, and then it became finalized with the Rites of Islam. And I'm not going to get into the history of it, because I think historically, maybe the Jacobite and the Syriac and the Coptic shouldn't have sided with the Saracen armies. But that's another story. There's no point in pointing fingers. It's horrible what's happened to the Coptic and the Syriac and the Jacobite. Peace to you. May God save Serbia, Syria, and Ireland. And may God save those who suffer under this filthy Islamic State, both those who are Antiochian Syriac and Oriental Syriac, as well as the good common Shia and Yazidis. Peace to you.